Welcome back. If you're new around here, my name is Bailey Lavender. I'm known for doing skits about horrendous things that happen in the salon industry, and not a lot of people believe that they're true, but they are true. So, if you've not seen my skits before, they're all on my shorts. You're welcome to go check them out over there. But this is where I like to tell the stories of beauty, blowouts, and backstabbing. Today, we are also talking about drugs. I'm going to first tell you a story that was sent in to me on thebaileylavenderhair@gmail.com, which is where all the crazy stories are sent in for me to tell y'all about. But I'm also going to tell you about one of my own crazy stories. Now, the first crazy story that we're talking about today is a learning situation. It's a learning situation, okay? So we're just kind of going to go with that for a second before I can tell you my absolutely nuts crazy story, okay? So the story takes place, envision it's a hairstylist who works in a salon suite, kind of like myself, and across the hall is their best friend. And typically, salon stylists who work in a salon suite, they either work with their door open or closed. I like mine closed because I like my privacy. This salon stylist who sent in the video is across the hall from their best friend. They're chilling, waiting for their next client, and their best friend's client who's sitting in their chair falls out. Passes out. The stylist hears this loud thud. They go running over. Is everything okay? Both stylists are like, oh my God, what's going on? That stylist was prepared. When you became a client of that stylist, they made you fill out a paper that I actually always used to do with any new client. I'm not taking new clients in a while, so that is what it is. But that stylist had each client fill out paperwork. Client history, what's gone on with their hair, what they're wanting, their information, but also emergency contacts. I personally think that's so important, and I always did that with my new clients. So please, if you are new in the industry or you're been in the industry for a while and you've not done it, please make your clients fill out an emergency contact informational page. But the thing that I want to talk about is the fact that because the stylist was prepared, they were able to help the client. They were able to call 911 and get medical professionals there quickly and tell them what was going on with this client because they were aware, but also able to call their emergency contact quickly because, a lot of people have like a lock on their phone. And so you don't know how to get in touch with someone that they need to know what's going on, right? That story is very short because it leads me into thinking about how when I first started in my salon suites, I had moved back to Greenville, South Carolina, and I just started taking on new clients again and was trying to build my books. And so I was letting a lot of things slide that I typically would not do, okay? Early on in my career, when I moved back to Greenville, South Carolina, I started taking on new clients. And this particular client was one to not want to fill out a ton of information about herself, didn't want to give emergency contacts, she didn't want to talk about the medication she might be on. And that was like, you know what, that maybe this is none of my business and maybe I am asking too much of these clients. And so I just went forward with her appointment, and I had a weird feeling like maybe I shouldn't, but I just didn't trust my gut. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get this money because I have bills to pay, right? And so I moved forward with this appointment, even though I felt in my gut, this is not going to be good. At the beginning of this client's appointment, everything felt normal. It didn't feel like anything crazy was going to happen. So I wasn't freaking out too much. We were having normal conversation. It was a color correction. There was a lot of work that needed to be done. And I foiled a lot of her hair. It was a lot of time that she was spending. As her appointment progressed, the more I noticed that she was acting sleepy. And mind you, she had stated how she had worked a long shift the day before. And so I was not thinking much of it. A lot of times when you play with clients' hair, they get sleepy. Like, that is not uncommon. I've had many elderly in my chair in hair school that would fall asleep to the point where like their head would slump over, and a lot of us would just literally sit on our knees and still do their hair because the service needs to get done and you get tired of waking someone up. Like, it honestly is not uncommon for people to fall asleep at the salon. So once I get done with all of her foils, I go and put her in the processing room. We have a processing room that the lights are dim, allows clients to relax. There are heaters in there for stylists who like to put their clients underneath a heater. So I put her in there and I go back to my suite to start cleaning up and preparing for what her next part of her service was, which was like rinsing out her foils and putting her toner on. And so I always set a timer. And so literally less than 5 minutes later, I walk back down to the processing room to check her foils. And she's sitting there, she's slumped over, but she's not falling out of her chair. She literally, this is how she looks. Sleeping, right? She looks like she's sleeping. And so I don't want to disturb her because I don't know if her foils are fully done yet. And so I just check her foils. They're not done yet. I think she's sleeping. I put her foil back and I leave quietly to allow her time just to relax. Because obviously girl's worn out, right? No. I then come back another 5 minutes later and check again. I did this multiple times. Girl did not move, okay? Girl stayed in the exact same position, me thinking that she is just so tired, so tired. She was not. She was not, okay? So finally, it was time for a part of her hair to get rinsed so that it didn't all fall out, okay? So I gently walk up to her. I'm like, hey, it's time to wake up. Nothing. Maybe she's a deep sleeper. She's not. Hey, it's time to wake up. Nothing. I then touch her shoulder. Hey. At that point, she falls deeper into her seat. I don't know how her core was holding her up before then, but she falls deeper into her seat. And I'm like trying to set her back up because I'm like, please don't fall and hurt yourself or like bonk your head or something, right? And so I'm trying to set her back up, but also being like, hey, time to wake up. And mind you, she's like, from me shaking her. She's not shaking from like having a seizure or anything. And so that scares me. I don't know what to do. She's not waking up. And so I, at that time, am working with a stylist who's been in the industry for close to 20 years. Husband at the time was a police officer. So I'm booking it. I'm running back to my salon suite to grab my coworker. She is back there. She thinks I'm kidding. So I'm like, the client that I have is passed out. The client that I have is passed out. What do I do? And so she and her client, mind you, her client sitting in her chair is a nurse. Her and her client take off running with me back to the processing room to try to figure out what's going on with my client. My client at that point has fallen not only into her chair, but is literally draped over the side of her chair, literally laying there. I think something is severely wrong. I am freaking out. I'm on the phone with 911. Begging them to like, hey, this is the salon I work at, please send somebody, right? By that point, she's starting to wake up, okay? So I'm like, all right, maybe she's just a really, really deep sleeper, okay? She wakes up, she's acting normal. She's like, oh, sorry guys, I've had a rough night. And so I'm on the phone with 911. I'm like, okay, never mind. She's waking up. Maybe we're good. And they're like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, the client's waking up. She said she was really tired from working the night before. Maybe I'm overreacting. I'll call back if anything gets worse. And so they don't send anybody. The nurse that is with us is checking her out and she's like, I think she's fine. She's acting a little weird, but we're gonna keep an eye on her because they both had a little bit more to their appointments for the rest of the day. And mind you, my coworker and I are the only two that are at the salon at this time. It is late. We're both working very late. By this point, I'm needing to shampoo her, right? And so I take her back to the salon, my salon suite, and I'm trying to rinse her. And I'm gonna have to turn. To show you this. So when you're laying back in a shampoo bowl, you lay back, right? Your head is in the shampoo bowl and you're relaxed. I don't know how she did this, but this girl was coming out of the shampoo bowl and was actively struggling with this because I would lay her back in it and she would start going, and I'm like, no. And I literally was like taking her head and pushing her back. I was like, stop, because like there was water dripping, it was gonna get everywhere. And I was like, well, are you okay? First I asked her, like, are you okay? She was like, yeah, I'm relaxing. And as she's going, and I'm like, are you hovering? What are you doing? Go back in the shampoo bowl. And she just keeps doing that to the point where I put my hand right here on a lot of clients to make sure the water doesn't go down their face. But I, at that point, kept it there so that it would keep her head here, right? And mind you, the shampoo bowl that I have is comfortable. It like, This one, it comes to you, it's a lot, it's weird. I can't explain it. It makes you feel like you're sitting up. It's more comfortable than typical ones, besides the point. I put her toner on her, and I put her back in the processing ring. All right, I'm hoping that we're good now, okay? With the toner, she hopefully won't pass back out or fall asleep again, because girls, you've made me very nervous. While all of this is going on, my coworker, who, like I said earlier, his husband at the time was a police officer in the area, and just so happens to area was where our salon is. She had been in contact with him, kind of informing him of what was going on. And so he decided that once he was done with what he was doing, he was going to stop by the salon just to check things out. He's on his way while I am finishing up with her appointment. And mind you, I am trying to take my time because I'm aware that something's not right. When I went back to get her after her toner was done, she once again was not wanting to wake up. She once again had to be shaken to be woken up. And I was like, you know what? I'm not feeling good about this situation. I'm going to take my time just in case, because I don't know her emergency contact. I didn't know how to handle the situation because she was acting fine when she was awake, but when I would walk away, she would pass out to the point of like not being able to like be coherent. And I was getting really nervous with her driving, right? Because soon her appointment was going to end. And so I was taking my time with her blow dry, really making sure that I was like really getting in there. I took my time with her styling. And then afterwards, I always take before and afters, because liability. Because some people will say, hey, you didn't actually do my hair. And you're like, yes, I did. I have photos. And so I was taking her photos. And as I'm taking her photos, and if you've ever had your hair done by a stylist, normally they'll take photos and they'll have you lean back with your head so that you can see the gorgeous locks, or to the fore, whatever it may be. They'll pose you many different ways, right? Well, I was posing her, and as I was posing her, she was falling again. Like I couldn't even get a good photo because every time I would go to click, she was falling in whatever direction we were facing her, right? And so over time, I was getting more frustrated, but like, girl, what is going on? And so I would ask her if you were okay. And mind you, backstory, another story, I forgot to add this in there. I was blow drying her, right? And I noticed that she had a beautiful butterfly tattoo on the back of her, behind her ear. And I was like, oh my God, that's beautiful. I love that. And she's like, yeah, my mom hates it because, of whatever reason. And I was like, oh, okay. And mind you, it was summer, so she was wearing a tank top. I stated something about like, I'm wanting one day, and that was before I had any. And she was like, oh, that's my only one, and I want more. Mind you, I looked down at this girl's arm, and she's covered in a sleeve, like a sleeve tattoo, like she's covered in them. And I joked and was like, oh, you're funny. I see your sleeve. Or is that like fake? Because you know, there's some tattoos that you can get on Amazon that like you put water on and it's a fake tattoo, but it's a whole sleeve. And she was like, what are you talking about? Girl, do you not see the huge sleeve tattoo that you have on your arm right now? Anyways, I just found that funny. And so by the time I'm done with her, she gets me cash, right? And I know that my coworker's husband should be showing up any second. She pays me. I'm trying to reschedule her to waste more time, and she was not having it. She was ready to leave. And I was like, I get that, but I'm nervous. So she, instead of rebooking with me, she just kind of like, not storms out, but like, it's like, I've got to go, and leaves. Now, mind you, as soon as she's getting in her car, he's pulling in. And he has some type of interaction with her where like she's stumbling to get into the car. And so it was enough for him to be like, hey, I want to talk to you for a minute. And so mind you, in that moment, she started panicking. I don't know what exactly happens next. I was trying to watch from the window, but also I was needing to clean up. I needed to get home. And so all I know is that from there, they found a lot of marijuana. And so they had found a lot of that in there, but they also found a lot of pills. We don't know what kind of pills. There was like just thrown everywhere, and come to find out she had taken pills, whatever, like she just said she grabbed a handful and she took pills, and then also had smoked prior to coming into her appointment. And with the smell, I think it may have had some type of reaction in her body. With that being said, she was about to drive, and so they called her parents and asked them to come get her instead. And instead of like taking her to jail, because technically she hadn't driven, she was just endangering herself by getting her hair done. She had not taken that extra step to driving. And so I don't believe they could take her to jail at that point. I don't know the law well enough to be able to say. But the next day I come into work and I'm working on another client and I get a phone call. And it is the salon owner being like, hey, Bailey, we've got an issue. And I was like, how did I know this was going to happen? And she clicks me over to the other person that's on the line, and it is the girl's mom from the night before. And she is livid. She is cursing me up and down and is irate at how expensive her hair appointment was. And I was like, what are you talking about? She was aware of how much she was going to pay. Like, I was very upfront with this. And she was like, no, you're going to reimburse her for her appointment, and you're going to reimburse her for the amount of money that was paid towards whatever the law enforcement ticket was, fine, whatever it was. I'm not sure. I was like, I'm sorry, that has nothing to do with me. Your child took drugs illegally and got a fine for it, or a ticket. I don't know. That has nothing to do with me. Your child about got behind the wheel where she could barely hold her head up. She was swaying, and you're mad at me? It was a whole ordeal. So with that being said, I would love to know, and mind you, I never heard from her again. The salon owner dealt with her. And the salon owner was like, listen, this is not on my stylist. Your daughter did something wrong, blah, blah, blah. But mind you, I want to know what y'all's thought on this is. Do you see as a stylist that they need to intervene, that they need to take that step, that they need to be like, whoa, 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 kind of similar to, I say, like a bartender cutting someone off, right? Like you can't have any more to drink or you need to give me your keys, right? What does a stylist need to do? And if you're a stylist, do you ask for emergency contacts? Because if I had that, I would have immediately called her parents, as well as making sure law enforcement was made aware, because that was my fear, is like her getting behind the wheel and driving and possibly endangering herself or someone else. Now, being a mother, I always fear when I'm driving late at night is that someone, or honestly anytime, is someone is driving and they're going to endanger me or my son or my wife's life. Like that those things happen, and it's unfortunate because someone doesn't care enough about themselves or other people. And I want to know, do you ask for emergency contacts? Do you ask for known illnesses that you need to be made aware of? Is that a part of the paperwork that you ask prior to becoming your client? Or do you just completely say that's none of my business? And I would like to know, as a client, if you're not in the salon industry, do you find that invasive? Do you find that to be something that stylists should not be made aware of, and that's none of our business? But after this story, do you think it might be something someone needs to know? This kind of stuff is very tricky, and I feel like a lot of people are not aware of all the kind of nitty-gritty things that stylists endure, or not even endure, encounter is a better word, because we deal with the public so closely, and we spend so much time with the public, the general public, that we deal with things that we're not prepared for. We're not aware of how to handle. No one tells us in hair school to get the emergency contacts. I just did that because I have medical professionals as family, and they're like, you need to do this. And so I'm a firm believer that there are situations that I need to be made aware of, and my clients who sit in my chair know since that moment that there is no waiver there. If you're going to become my client, this is part of my rules. And if you don't like it, then you don't have to be my client. There's plenty of stylists out there that probably don't require this kind of stuff or would allow that kind of stuff to pass. But because of the situations that I've been put in that I don't find fair for me to be put in, that is one of my rules. So I would love to know that. So thank you for sitting here. If you have not done so already, please make sure you hit the subscribe button. I love you so much. Thank you for sitting here through another episode of beauty, blowouts, backstabbing, and this episode of drugs. I love you so much. I hope you have a great day, and thank you for being here. Bye, y'all.